When did you start skateboarding?
I started skating when I was 9 years old, and I'm 24 now.
Why do you like skateboarding?
Just because there's nobody telling me what to do, you know. It's just me, no team, no coach. Those are the things I've always been interested in the most.
What don't you like about skateboarding?
Oh man, posers.
Have you ever gotten seriously injured?
Nothing serious, but I did get speed wobbles bombing a hill and tore up my back really bad. Nasty scabs. Slipped out, actually this is a bad one. Slipped out on a back 50-50. My feet went behind me. First thing that hit the ground was my chin. Bit my tongue. And the chin was just cut open. It was just literally a stream of blood. And I blacked out, fell on the ground. I guess I seizured for a little bit. So yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
Jesus.
So yeah, skateboarding is a derivative of surfing. The first skateboarders were actually surfers. When the waves were down in the East Coast and West Coast of the United States predominantly, there were a few in Hawaii as well. But if you really want to get to the brass tacks of that, it started in the early days in the Northern California coast and the Southern Oregon coastline, and there was real harsh waves there, and surfing wasn't really it wasn't as consistent as it was in Southern California. So these guys, when they got back from World War II and stuff in the late 40s, they took old 2x4s. They took their sisters' roller skates, split them in half, took their old metal caster wheels and whatnot, and they screwed them down to a plank of plywood and invented a skateboard. And so they would start riding down the streets. They called it sidewalk surfing originally. The original name for skateboarding was sidewalk surfing, actually. Did you know that, Sheridan Seeley?
No, I didn't.
Isn't that cool? This is so fun. This is dude, I feel like we're in Wayne's World right now.
I guess people don't know much about maybe the pro skateboarding industry as much as you do. People might think it's all good and they just get paid a bunch. Is that true?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I look at skateboarding, and just like any professional athlete, there's different fractions of it. I mean, you got your bench warmers and whatever make very little money compared to the guys that are the main stars. You trying to compare Michael Jordan to, I don't know, Scottie Pippen, or no, not Scottie Pippen, that's a bad analogy. Comparing Brian Duckworth with Michael Jordan would be a good analogy. Brian Duckworth owns a restaurant now, and Michael Jordan just chills on his millions. Like that. It is a very esoteric out there thing. It's a hard thing to really articulate, because it isn't all about glamour and money. There's a lot of real nitty gritty stuff to it, and a lot of people burn out early on. A lot of people don't, and it's just a dice roll really where you're gonna end up. You're gonna end up being a Duckworth, a Brian Duckworth, or you're gonna be Michael Jordan. And there's everything in between. There's really no middle class. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. There's really no middle class in skateboarding either. Yeah, like you said, the skate industry. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're industry or you're in the street. You're gonna always have to deal with a boss. It doesn't matter if you're a street skater or you're some guy behind a desk, designing skate shoes. You're always gonna have to have a boss above you. You're always gonna have to have deadlines to meet, and that's why skateboarding is a good thing, because it trains you for the real world, no matter where you work in it. And I guess that's the best thing I learned from my years of being in the trenches, as a professional skateboarder for those years. The best thing I learned is a good work ethic, and now that I had to adapt it to the real world, it's like the skateboard military. I got out and all right, now I can handle anything. I lived through that. I destroyed my body for 12 years. I traveled the world, and I got to see a lot of interesting things, and I got to experience a lot of different cultures, and it teaches you a lot about life. I guess that's probably the best thing I learned from skateboarding, other than obviously the great feeling you feel from pulling a new trick and whatnot. But I can't describe that in a film. There's no way. I don't know. Is there any way to describe how good it feels to pull a new trick at all? There's no way, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to discuss something infinite like stars in outer space. It's like one of those things oh, where does space end? You can't explain it to anybody. Even if you knew where it ended, how do you explain it? It's like explaining a 5-lane freeway to an anthill. How would you explain that? To an anthill, oh, this freeway, these are people in cars. Well, what are cars? What are people? How did you explain how good it feels to pull a new skateboard trick?
To me, it's not a sport at all. It's a lifestyle. It's an art. It's a form of expression. It's a drug. I mean, it's not a sport at all. There's no points. There's no teams. It's just you. You're the only one, keeping yourself going. You're the only one, going out and skating and trying something and learning new things. You're the only one pushing yourself. It's definitely not a sport at all to me. It's a lifestyle.